Welcome back to the FanSpeak Network and another episode of NFL Betting Card. That's right, we are back for a little off-season edition, and hopefully we'll be doing more of these soon. I am, of course, joined by Spread Astaire and Tyler Hicks, and we are talking free agency implications to best ball and, NFL futures. We're basically reacting to the NFL free agency frenzy that we just got through, and we want to, kind of give our spin on how we're handling these moves as we look ahead to best ball and NFL futures. So, Spread, I'll turn it to you first. You were pumped for this show. Been excited about all these free agency moves. Like, what is have you been enjoying the last week of action NFL stories, off-season stories, and what are your just initial thoughts?
I mean, as the NFL continues to take over the sporting landscape, as free agency talk has overshadowed even the great basketball going on in the college basketball world and the mediocre basketball going on in the NBA. But right, first of all, we need to start the show by congratulating the Washington Commanders ownership for not bowing to the pressure that you personally were putting on them.
I was
draft an overhill quarterback, overpay him, and not build the team correctly. Now they get to draft a quarterback, build around him, and do things the right way. And we're going to discuss this a little more.
You're trying to start an argument already.
Yeah, I'm trying. Hey, wait, I've been waiting for this for like 2 weeks, Meg. So, anyways, a lot of great moves. And here, I'll help you out with your job because I do a little hosting myself. I see some of the biggest news, Tyler, has been your team not securing not one, but two of the hottest free agent or / available quarterbacks there. I personally enjoy it. I was listening to some content today saying, hey, maybe the regular season will be about the same, but with these moves that the playoff ceiling could be higher. I would say that whoever ends up winning that job probably is going to do right. We can just pencil them in for 9 or 10 wins every year, but probably a better chance. And I agreed with it as I was listening to it, driving down here today. What do you think, Tyler? How excited are you to have not one, but two mobile quarterbacks there to work with Mike Tomlin?
You talked about wanting one of them. Now you get two. Seriously, Tyler.
You get both.
Yeah. We got to build a statue of Omar Khan because this isn't your dad's old Steelers that are going to sit on their hands for 12 years and be like, oh, this is our guy. We ship small hands to Philly. Now he gets to hold a Philly cheesesteak with two hands and play backup the rest of his life. And the best part about these quarterback spread is they literally looked at the free agency market and the trade market, and they reached in their pocket and they went, all we got these 6 coins.
Yeah.
And both of them went, all right, we'll take them. So we got them for nothing. If they both suck, I don't care.
It's like it doesn't hurt you at all. Yeah.
We spent $1 million in a 5th round pick on a new quarterback room. I am completely fine with that.
Yeah, you should be ecstatic. I mean, that just Steelers are always so smart, and but I agree. I had a Steelers friend who said the exact same thing as you. This isn't your father's Steelers. And
and another thing too is like I seen this on Twitter. It's like you see all the other AFC North teams saying the Steelers signings suck. Russ is beat. You don't see Dallas and Philly and Washington calling out the Giants or anything. You don't see them calling out Philly. Those other teams in the AFC are worried about Pittsburgh now. They know these moves are good moves.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Like you said, it's just so smart because it's basically no risk, zero risk. And that's what's so smart about it. And they take not one, but two. They have 2 shots at a quarterback because that's always what you're trying to do is find that guy. And if they miss on both, who cares?
3 shots after the draft too, because I think there's 2 guys you could draft late in this draft that are similar players to them that could mold their play after them too.
Who are your 2 on the list?
It'd be Rattler and Travis.
Okay. Yeah. Travis is the one coming off the injury, right?
Yeah. And you'll be able to get him 5th or 6th round.
Oh, that's why I was assuming he'd go late. Yeah. I don't know where Rattler will end up going more. I'm guessing
he's more. Yeah. I don't know if he's going to climb all the way up to like round 3 or if he's going to be like a 4 or a 5 round. So he's back there. I mean, we can easily get him too.
Yeah, no, I definitely think taking a shot there and then having like a 3 swings at a quarterback in the next year or 2, if these 2 don't pan out, it makes all the sense in the world. So, So before we get dive further into this, obviously be sure to like this episode and subscribe to the FanSpeak Network because we will be ramping up more NFL offseason content starting to do more live best ball drafts, a lot more best ball content coming your way. Steve and I are going to be doing a rookies and sophomores draft. They just released out on Underdog. If you're new to Underdog, use code FANSPEAK for 100% deposit bonus. But rookie sophomores is so fun. You talked about, rookie quarterbacks. Rookie quarterbacks are the story. We'll talk about it more, but like rookie sophomore drafts are very fun because you can really wait out. Okay,
Who's
where are the
number
strengths?
one?
The running backs, because the scarcity of running backs in rookie sophomores is, Steve and I were just talking about it on my way home. The scarcity of running back. Like I want to say, the fourth or fifth running back, it's like dried up basically. And you only have to start one, but if you want to start, have two really solid options. So it's tons of scarcity at the running back position, unless you want to totally rely on the rookie running backs. Whereas if you go back, FanSpeak Network, check out Steve and I's series going through quarterbacks, running backs, 2 wide receiver episodes and a tight end episode on all the rookies and the implications for best ball. You'll know that the running back class it's pretty weak, whereas the rookie wide receiver class is super deep and strong. So you have a lot of depth at wide receiver. And, running backs is where it's a little weak. And so that's why we only have a couple options for sophomores. Very interesting. So check that out. Thursday, we'll do a live draft for that. And again, we'll be ramping up NFL offseason and best ball content very, very soon. So let's dive into it further. We talked about Tyler's team's move at quarterback.
We got news that just broke.
What's that? Who?
Mike Williams to the Jets.
I just want to put Mike Williams ? Oh my God, that's amazing.
And I can tell you what that causes is Tyler Boyd's not going to sign with the Steelers because they were just waiting to see if they got Mike Williams first.
You think?
He had a meeting in Pittsburgh.
Oh, Tyler Boyd, wouldn't you?
No,
you think you'd rather Mike Williams, right? I mean,
if Mike Williams is healthy, Mike Williams is like,
I think they can get 12 games out of Tyler Boyd and 4 games out of Mike Williams.
Yeah, that's true. Poor Mike Williams. But if you, I think it's a
when you
great
guys
sign.
said that the Raiders, I'm like, oh, cool, we can get him for 4 games. Like, whoop-de-doo.
Yeah.
I mean, some people just aren't meant for the rigors of NFL football. And I would be say that Mike Williams might be one of those people.
Yeah, and my 30% of him that I had in best ball last year was a massive lesson learned that I need to, you can't predict injuries, right? Ever. But there are these guys at all positions that are just
injury-prone guys. Right.
There are injury-prone guys, and Mike Williams was that. And 30% of him last year was a little excessive. So Tyler Boyd going back to Pittsburgh, he was a pit boy, another former pit guy.
Yeah, that's
Tyler used to cover him in high school.
I didn't cover him. He ran by himself.
Okay, so that's fun news because the Jet. I mean, we'll get to wide receivers, but I think that's a smart move. They're all in, this next year or two, trying to surround Aaron Rodgers. And we're not really going to talk about like running backs and defensive position signings really because that doesn't have as big of implications as things we're talking about. But I think the Jets did a very good job in protecting Aaron Rodgers. But back to the quarterback position and what you were trying to tease me on is I like the Falcons a lot more this year with the signing of Kirk Cousins. Tyler, you said you didn't love the quarterback series spread. You haven't watched it, but that reinvigorated my love for Kirk Cousins, his dedication to the game. He goes out and gets a 4-year massive contract. Obviously, I would think 3-year kind of more guaranteed there, but massive contract for the Falcons. I like where they're at, especially in a weak division of the NFC South. Now we do have Baker Mayfield also going back to Tampa, which I like that a lot too. But listen, I think the Falcons really just needed to drop that quarterback in to really compete in the NFC. And I like this move for both futures and best ball. No, I didn't. My Washington didn't get them, and will likely be drafting a rookie. But Spread, I'll go to you first. What do you think about kind of how this impacts the Falcons
for best ball and
best
regular
ball and
season?
Futures. Yeah.
So I'm all in for him on best ball.
Mm-hmm.
Futures, other than regular season bets, I don't want to get involved. We already have our issues with Cousins, but we talk about one of the reasons we're going to like him in the regular season could be a detriment, right? We've seen these teams that kind of sail through easier, weaker divisions just get absolutely smoked in the first round of the playoffs. So if you tell me you're all in on regular season futures, like you want to play their win season total, you want to play them to win the division, I'm all in with you. I don't know if this really made them a contender in the NFC. I mean, what do you think? I know you're higher in Cousins than me.
I am.
I think the defense is still pretty good, and I'm trying to think they have Raheem Morris, and I'm not sure who their DC is, but Morris will essentially be running it, right?
Running the defense.
You got to think that he's going to be able to do just as good a job. Who was the guy before? Dean Pease, I believe.
I believe so. Yeah.
With Arthur Smith, and I thought that he did a good job. But they've definitely developed some talent there on defense. I think for the regular season, I do believe in this team. Now, will they be better than Tampa? That's going to be tough to see. Of course, we're still waiting on some big news from Tampa, though, aren't we? I mean, Mr. Mike Evans is still
no, he's back. No, he's back.
He is?
No, it's he and Baker are back.
He didn't even touch free agency. He re-signed before they even.
He wants to retire.
Okay.
Yeah, he's going to retire a Buccaneer.
Okay, well, great for him. And then I think that makes the Falcons and the Bucs about,
equal.
Great. Yeah. I don't know about rivalry is the right word, right? But I'd say I'd put them both at, the equal number. Like probably if I set the number right now, put them each at like plus 130, plus 150, something like that to win the division. So
yeah, I think it's
good move for the regular season.
Yeah.
You're trusting Baker to recreate the one season he's actually looked like really good in the pocket again next year.
I mean,
he looked pretty good in Cleveland before he got hurt.
He did look good in Cleveland. I was going to say
my biggest thing about it is just rethinking this back through my head. And we watched a lot of Tampa games because we bet him last year. How many times was he ducking and dodging sacks where he would literally he'd be stood straight up in the pocket, he'd hunch all the way over, and the dude would just slide off his back.
Yeah.
I don't think he could just keep avoiding sacks like that. I
don't know if they upgraded their offensive line.
I think Atlanta wins this division just running away with it. Like that is literally all they needed was a quarterback. They had an Uber driver, Desmond Ridder, trying to play quarterback last year, and the dude couldn't even throw the ball. Now you're going to replace him with someone who's actually going to air the ball out. They have Drake London who can go get the ball down the field, and he's a big receiver. Kyle Pitts can stretch the field. They went and got Darnell Mooney, another guy that can stretch the field.
Mm-hmm.
That's just going to help Bijan Robinson open up the run game too.
Yep.
Algier's still there to be his backup. They're going to be a problem, and they're going to draft Dallas Turner at 8, who's the best defensive player in the draft. So they're going to win that division unless Kirk goes down.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that. I think both those teams can be competitive, but I definitely like Atlanta more. They just needed that quarterback to drop in, and I think it was, they basically said we're going to, have the blank check. And
Tampa overachieved last year. They were dead last in division odds. They were like 6-1 to win the division. Everyone thought they were picking top 5, and they won a playoff game.
Yeah, very
overachieving.
Absolutely, and they lost their offensive coordinator, which, he has been a quarterback whisperer.
Yeah.
We'll see what he can do in that division with Bryce Young. But, but actually I do kind of like Bryce Young a little bit more, getting Deontay Johnson and that coach Canales going there. But the loss for Baker, we'll see the implications there. But yeah, Atlanta, God, do I love them. I need to see what recent rankings are on all of like the Atlanta stacks, but Drake London especially. I mean, we have to now look at Kyle Pitts another year. And like you said, Bijan and Kirk, I mean, that is just a awesome stack to try to get in best ball. Cause I do think, that you're not talking about actual in the playoffs through week 17, and we'll find out the schedule in May. I love it for best ball. And yeah, I like the Falcons to win the South.
They could be the NFC Miami, another team that I absolutely love for the regular season. And I don't believe in as a true contender. But if I'm drafting number 2, I'm taking Tyreek.
Right.
Right. I mean,
right.
I want Tyreek. I want Tua. I want Waddle. I want A-Chain. I want whoever. Right. I mean, Jeff Wilson Jr., I'll take him in round 15. I mean, so yeah, I'm with you, Meg. We agree on that. So that's good that we're getting some agreement.
What we don't agree on is that we've discussed this multiple times, but the summary of what we don't agree on is I think like a Tua, Kirk Cousins, Dak can win a Super Bowl. You don't. And that's what it comes down to. That's where we disagree, but that's okay. It really doesn't matter. Like you said, outside of like other futures, it really doesn't matter.
Not until we do our playoff drafts.
No. Right? Yeah. That's when it's different.
Then our playoff drafts, I'm saying, don't take Tua, don't take Kirk.
Yeah. Don't take Dak. Yeah.
All right. Let me switch this a little, because here's a team that I'm unsure about how I actually believe their playoff futures, and it's a team you hate, Meg. So I got to hear it.
Philly.
What do you think of the Philadelphia Eagles?
Sorry, I just had to take a drink of water. And well, obviously, I like their coordinator moves, and in regards to best ball decisions, I definitely think I'm going to weight like the coordinators so much. but I love their coordinator moves. I think that Sirianni is like a loose cannon, a total loose cannon. So I just wonder if things go sideways early. I don't know. We'll just see how he sustains the team. There was rumors that like bodyguard is like the guy that keeps them in check, like the what's his name?
Big
the
Dom?
guy, Big Dom.
Big
Yeah,
Dom.
the Big Dom like keeps them in check because he's just a total loose. It was like yelling at players, like just obscenely yelling at players and stuff like that. So like I don't know. I just could see that thing blowing up. But I am impressed with just like I wasn't impressed with what they did at the coordinator position last year. I am impressed with their coordinators this year, though. But then obviously they lost Swift. They get Barkley. That's an upgrade. But then they lose some major guys in retirement with Kelsey and Fletcher Cox. So yeah, I just think that there are going to be some impacts, especially with those veterans gone. But getting Barkley is huge. So I don't know. It's a wild card for Philly. I think the head coach is a liability. I think the coordinators were strong. I think their free agency, they did some good things, but I think they lost some big things in retirement. So to me, it kind of keeps going like this. What do you think? And then I'll get Tyler's thoughts.
I do like them. So did we talk about this already? I'm not sure I talked about it with you or not. When they added Saquon, I think when we're talking about best ball, that's going to lower Hurts.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you talked about no Kelsey. Well, it's cool, right? Because now we have the running back to give it to at the goal line. So I think that some people were worried about Saquon. And we might have had this conversation where I said I wanted Saquon more than Breece now.
Yes, we did. Yeah. Because I love Breece
and you still stuck with Breece, but I'm thinking without Kelsey there, I don't know if that
the tush
brotherly shove or whatever is going to work as well. Maybe it makes Barkley a little higher. Of course, who scores those short touchdowns doesn't really matter for their ability to win the Super Bowl. And they have so many flaws that I wouldn't believe in them, except it still seems like the AFC is so much better than the NFC. I mean, other than the San Francisco 49ers, who's a complete team? Like, who are they worried about? I know Detroit's better, and I know that I doubted them last year, and I know that I ate my words. So let's go ahead and give Detroit some credit, and we can maybe even put Detroit above Philadelphia based on the way that the playoffs went. But other than Detroit and San Francisco, who is Philly worried about there in the NFC?
I mean, on the rise, the Packers. We did shows with Jamie and his Packers. They were, one that like we said, oh, maybe they will sneak into the NFC Championship. Like I think
another team that I had wrong.
I doubted last year. No. I doubted last year, but I'm not going to make that mistake again this year. I don't know what they did, the defensive moves. I'd have to like really look and dive further into the defensive moves. I don't know. Tyler, what are your thoughts on Philly before we move on and finalize any other quarterback?
Yeah, they just pushed themselves closer to the 49ers with all the additions they made. I know losing Kelsey probably hurts, but they also drafted a guy that Kelsey handpicked and trained for the last 2 years before he retired. So
yeah, even Jurgens, I believe.
That kid's not going to be Kelsey. We know that.
Right.
But he got the training from him. He can somewhat emulate him. It's never going to be the same, but he can get some of the work done in there. He's played too. We've seen Cam Jurgens play. He's not the worst player. He can easily play. So I think that they're right back up there with San Francisco. Detroit was in the NFC Championship game last year. But it's like, all right, you played 2 games at home. You had 2 nice matchups. Then you went on the road. Yeah, you went up on San Francisco. But how much of that was just San Francisco just playing with their food? Because they did that the first couple rounds. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, Detroit's that team. Like I said this with the Raptors in the NBA when they won the finals. They went on that little run. I said, I will never trust this team in a series until they hold that trophy above their head. And I'll go, oh, they were actually legit the whole time. I'm the same way with Detroit. Until they got there and proved to me that they are Super Bowl contenders, I don't believe it.
So you still don't believe it even after the NFC Championship?
Until they punch that ticket and they can show me that they could break through, I still don't believe it. Because they could just be the team. It's like, oh, well, San Francisco's head and shoulders better than the NFC. Detroit's somewhere in between, and you show up every year just to get pounded by San Francisco so they can go to the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? Like,
so you guys are saying at early look, you still, and after all these free agency moves, you still like the Eagles the next best in the NFC.
I do.
Who would you have at number 2?
Probably the Lions. They just shored up there. They got Zeitler from the Raven. I know, but I mean, I was definitely wrote notes about like all like the moves, like as far as skill positions, but some of these moves for like offensive line and to Tyler's point, like the replacement they have for Kelsey was very good for the Eagles, but they got Kevin Zeitler from the Ravens. So, I mean, they shored up, they lost a guy in free agency. I forget what guard they lost, but yeah, I mean, they still have like one of the most solid offensive lines in the NFL. And then they kept, the coach that, bailed while Washington was on the plane to see him and didn't let him know. They kept, kept Ben Johnson. So they have
That's
that.
another thing I would love to go back and look at, like number wise. I want to know how much that these offensive coordinators that are like labeled as like offensive wizards that stay on a team long enough, that following year after you have your explosion on offense, how much do you draw back? Like how much film do the teams watch on Detroit this offseason, figure out all those little plays Ben Johnson was running? Do they just shut that offense down next year? Does he not have like a pivot from there? You know what I mean?
Well, he actually showed it the year before though. Yeah.
I would say the reason I would say no is those playmakers, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I could study tape on Tyreek Hill, but do I have a corner and a safety that could execute the plan?
Mm-hmm.
Even if I'm genius. I'm Bill Parcells in his prime, right? I have Bill Belichick's mind. If I don't have the personnel, I can't stop those teams. And I still believe that the Lions personnel is elite. And Meg, I want to touch on something that you said real quick. When we're evaluating free agency, right? When a wide receiver and a running back and all these position skill players get signed, I move my fantasy board around. And you talked about the Lions getting that guard, which was a great pickup.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the moves that will change me on my actual overall futures for NFC Championship and for Super Bowl.
You've talked about that before, where it's like it's those moves on the lines and stuff that are the ones that really dictate that. Yeah, no, I get that.
I saw all this running back moving around, right? I think it really changed the fantasy landscape. But who really changed the championship's odds? And I have to ask you, because let's go back to the Packers, and we're bouncing around, but this is fun. We kind of set this up as, hey, we're just going to all sit around and talk football, and we'll broadcast it this time instead of doing it privately. How do you think Josh Jacobs does? Because I actually think that he's one of the few needle movers. I think Saquon and Jacobs are the two that you go, I got to upgrade this team, not just fantasy wise, but I got to move them up a half a point or a full point in my power rankings. How do you think Jacobs is going to do in Green Bay? Seems like a perfect fit to me.
Love it. Love the Jacobs move to Green Bay. I mean, obviously then, Aaron Jones goes to rival Vikings, but I think it's perfect for the team to, on taking a shot with a kind of a veteran running back at, and we'll get to Derrick Henry is going to be the other needle mover, I think personally, but like, I think Josh Jacobs is going to a team that is a young up and coming team that's strong, that can make noise in the NFC. And then you solidify just this like absolute workhorse. I think with a decent offensive line, I have to analyze the Packers offensive line deeper, but love the Josh Jacobs move for best ball. Absolutely think it helps for Packers futures, and absolutely love, or just your confidence in the Packers in general. And love the Josh Jacobs move. What do you think, Tyler?
Yeah, I think it's gonna be a real problem to try and tackle that guy in the middle of December in Green Bay. Like, it gets into the second level. Like that ain't AJ Dillon's fat pudgy ass coming at you running slow. Like that is a madman with wheels underneath him that's gonna run right into you and keep going. So I think it's a great pickup, but it's like running backs across the board as long as they stay healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And he's had health problems before.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, with Jacobs gone, what do you think about Zamir White as like a late round best ball pick?
I loved him last year, and he actually ended up helping because he got me zeros the whole year.
Yeah, but
and then the week 14, the first round, Jacobs sat, and he went for over 100, right, Tyler?
Yeah, I think so.
That day. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it ended up working out there for. And first of all, I absolutely love the guy. If you hear his interviews, I mean, the guy is Southern and country, and he's just a fun guy to root for. I think he's going to do fine. And we're going to see how the offense works this season. I mean, it really comes down to, do we get the quarterback this year? Mm-hmm. Is he good? And if so, are they going to be playing with the lead? Because if so, he's going to be a great guy to have.
Yeah.
I'm a little worried that, there's a lot of talented players that are always playing from behind, right? Miles Sanders comes to mind, a guy that we were kind of high on. And then when they're down 23-7 at the end of the second quarter every week, you go, well, I don't think Miles Sanders is going to get too many more touches.
Right.
But overall, I think he'll do fine replacing him. It's so reductive, but it comes back to, are we going to have the quarterback to get us a lead to where we can rely on Zamir White? Because I don't think he's going to be that effective in the passing game.
Yeah, I like him as a late round best ball pick for sure. The quarterback for Vegas, and we can get to, maybe rookie quarterbacks in a minute, will be interesting. I think it makes sense. The Gardner Minshew thing makes sense to kind of be maybe that bridge and then draft a rookie either in the first or second round. So
let's say he ends up starting, right? And the rookie just doesn't beat him out. What do you think the ceiling is with Minshew? I mean, can we get 9 wins? I mean, how good can we be with Minshew? What do you think, Meg?
Well, you certainly added on the defense too, so I know you made other upgrades. So I don't know. I'd have to get from the fan perspective, the full picture of all your guys' additions and work in free agency. Look, he almost took the Colts to the playoffs last year in the AFC, which obviously ended up being different than what we thought. Still has elite talent, but top end teams, but ended up being maybe not the gauntlet that we think. So, I think he's just a scrappy guy that can get you 9 wins. Yeah, I think it's possible. Do I think it's possible? Yes. Do I think it would actually make sense for likely drafting the 5th, 6th, or later best quarterback for him to start and give the rookie a year to learn? Yes. I think he's scrappy and he can keep it alive. I don't know. What do you think, Tyler?
I just looking at this quarterback board, the spread's going to be like, oh, I love some of these guys on the back end. After the first 4 or 5 guys, I'd probably just stop attempting to draft one of these guys, let Minshew run out the year and go after next year's class. Do you really want to sit there and go, maybe Bo Nix is our guy? Let's not.
Bo Nix is good.
I was gonna say,
Nix is gonna be good.
I think Penix and Nix.
Save that clip. Bo Nix is literally Kenny Pickett all over again. They did the same thing in college. Neither guy did anything until the last 2 years.
What conference is Pitt in? The ACC?
Yeah. And you're going to tell me
winning against the Pac-12,
big bad conference of football.
It was.
Red. He was a check down merchant. He literally checked down and the guys ran away.
He was, but I do think
he does not throw the ball down the field.
The ability to check down is crucial in the NFL.
Yeah. Good luck wasting a 2nd round pick on that.
I do think he showed some stuff.
He's going to go at 12, Tyler.
Everything I read,
somebody wastes a 12th pick on this guy. Not only
he's going to Denver.
Not only is the head coach getting fired, the GM is getting fired too. Because
you think Payton will get fired?
Yes, because the kid's not going to be good.
I don't know. I disagree, but I don't watch enough tape. I just listen to other people that watch way more stuff than I do, and I think, especially if you gave him a year, but even still, he has.
Thing, Meg. He's 27 years old. He is what he is. He's not going to improve.
True. That's true. But here's the thing and Steve made this point when I was asking about him. He said, he actually has he has one of the higher floors of the other quarterbacks outside the top 3. He has one of the higher floors. He's going to be in this league for a while. Is he going to, turn into a great starter? That might be more of an outlier. We'll see. But he'd probably have to go to the really, really the right situation for that to happen. But I don't know that I don't think he's going to have bust written all over him just because he's got a safer floor. And again, this is from what I read and watched about guys that watch college football way more than me, because I admit I don't.
And sometimes the college tape can fool you. I mean, Bryce Young had better tape than CJ Stroud.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, Bryce Young was surrounded by me and you last year, spread. He wasn't doing anything anyway. His best receiver was Adam Thielen.
I know.
He had 5 guys.
I remember how much we were stacking. Who is the guy we kept stacking? Mingo.
Oh, God, yeah.
Who else did we keep stacking?
Showed up at the end of the year. Chark was the other one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he was another one. Yeah.
But yeah, if you gave Bryce, Nico Collins, Tank Dell, a good offensive line, and not an idiot at the helm, pretty sure he would have put up good numbers. Don't throw him down the drain yet. He's in one of the worst situations I've ever seen.
Well, now I think he's going to be an interesting one this year for best ball, because I think people have the yuck factor with watching. It was painful to watch him last year based on everything you just said, Tyler. But, the coach, we just talked about Dave Canales. They got Deontay Johnson, trade from you.
They spent like $150 million on the offensive line. So they're trying to fix that.
They're trying to fix the offensive line.
Problem,
wouldn't be surprised this receiver class is the one thing I do know very, very, very confidently is this receiver class is elite and deep and strong and just all the way around. You want to be taking a receiver, whether you need it or not. They do. I think I would imagine the second round pick that they have an early second round, I believe, that they take a receiver there. So, I mean, they could end up with Deontay Johnson, a strong rookie receiver, then things could turn around quick for Bryce Young under Dave Canales. So definitely interested in some best ball stacks with him. Any other, before we get further into running backs, any other of the tier 2 quarterbacks like Gardner Minshew that you think make their team interesting or have interest in best ball? Brad, I'll go to you first.
I'm trying to think. Who do we
consider
a tier 2 quarterback?
Well, I think the Patriots should let Jacoby Brissett start this year. I mean, that's in my hope that Washington gets Drake May and Jane Daniels goes there. I don't think that they should let that kid who I think needs some time to make NFL reads. I think they should let Jacoby start, but who knows? Let's see. We have Jacoby Brissett, Gardner Minshew.
As for best ball, though, I could see Jaden taking over by week 5 or 6.
Yeah, that's true.
That's why I think that was a tough one.
I'm trying to think of the other tier 2 quarterbacks because
unless you want to draft Winston late in the best ball draft, pray to God Watson's arm falls off again.
Oh, that's right. And then
where did Flacco go?
Flacco went to the Colts, which is very smart by them because again, I just think some guys are more injury prone, and maybe he does learn.
That's the Lamar deal all over again, where you have a backup quarterback who's so unlike your starter that if he goes out, everything's going to be screwy.
I think it's a little different though, because Baltimore they had Joe Flacco and no receivers, so when Lamar stepped out there was nothing. If AR goes down, they're going to go, all right, Flacco, you're going to go in there. Michael Pittman's going to run straight down the field, and you're just going to lob this thing up. Watch this 6'4" giant go up and get it.
Yeah, and then they also have Josh Downs, who's not a decent
decent tight end for him to target. They got running backs. See, that's a different situation. I think
wouldn't be surprised if they took a receiver in this insane class either, because again, Alec Pierce and Josh Downs are fine, but they could certainly add to the Michael Pittman weapon thing. I think he's a great number 2 for Anthony Richardson. You know how I feel about running quarterbacks. I just am very skeptical that they'll play 17 games. And so I certainly think, that he could see the field, but I mean, you're not drafting him in best ball, but I think the Colts in best ball are interesting, or, just the Colts in general are interesting this year, because again, it certainly would be 2 different offenses, but I think they're both strong in their own right. I think the Flacco thing was a very, very smart backup quarterback play there. I don't think the main quarterback moves were Cousins and then the 2 Steelers quarterbacks. So I think all the other ones are just so, and now we just have to wait and see which rookies land where, which we have essentially 5 more weeks from this Thursday, I believe.
There's something I want to talk about, Meg.
Yeah.
We got to nitpick it spread a little bit. Dude, so high on Jim John, whatever one ended up in LA.
Meg's going to take my side. She's been Team Chargers for the last 10 years.
Well, we're not in. We're not in 1935, and his 2 receivers are named Josh Palmer and Quentin Johnson.
Yeah,
so
yeah, that's
this team's dead.
Well, they pick 5, so you can already pencil in Malik Neighbors or.
Yeah, but they have I think they have offensive line. They're getting mocked offensive line.
Everything spread
they need everything.
They need everything, and they have no cap room.
Nothing. They just got under the cap, right? I mean, they just got cap compliant.
They had to go to 4 players and go, we need you to restructure your contracts because we can't afford you. 3 of them restructured. 1 of them said no. That guy's in Chicago now.
Yeah.
Who's that?
Keenan Allen.
I think the loss of Keenan Allen is insane. I don't
think it's that big a deal.
Oh my God.
You're smoke screened by this Harbaugh thing.
Yeah,
you have no idea what's
bro. Look at the 49ers roster was when he showed up there.
They
weren't very good either. He makes everybody good.
Sucks.
Bro, he won at Stanford.
Let's see. He had
Andrew Luck. Win at Stanford.
He had Andrew Luck.
Andrew Luck, yeah.
Not every year.
The winning years he did.
He won at University. No, you guys.
Listen, one thing I want to be very, very careful with in best ball season, I talked about him a little bit ago, was coordinator decisions. And I did not realize how run heavy. It's just been in the recent weeks that I've read how run heavy that Jim Harbaugh led offenses are. We knew that at Michigan. People are connecting dots that he could draft his Michigan running back Blake Corum in the, I don't know, second, third, fourth round, something like that. But I just worry about Herbert now for best ball. I've kind of struck out 2 years in a row with Herbert stacks, and maybe this year I'll probably go off but
I mean, one thing I want to worry about is he's not going to get hit all game. Harbaugh's not going to allow that.
Oh, yeah.
So
right,
if you
they're going to be
him,
so
you should have him in the playoffs. Yeah, because he's not going to sit back there and just let his quarterback get destroyed like Shanahan and McVay do. They're going to establish the run. But the great thing about that is that you should put your quarterback in a great position, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't need 40 attempts to put up big numbers. If I can get there on 30, that's just fine, right? If I just tell you 303, you don't care how many you got. And I think I just lost my headphones. So let me see what happens here.
I was gonna say I could still hear you. We can still everything, but
this is it echoing?
No,
no, you're good.
Okay, so I'll just use that then. Okay.
I don't know what to make of this whole it just feels like cupboard is bare for Herbert. I just think that the Chargers need this year to kind
of. I think you're overestimating. Okay, first of all, Mike Williams only plays 4 games every year. So
that's a little overreaction because he's been a lot more healthy than people give him credit for. He may.
I was gonna say I think he almost played a full season.
Years, but everyone's just basing it off of the last 2 years and being like, this guy's made of glass. So
yeah,
the numbers don't fully
the last 5 in NBA, right? It's what we've seen recently. Yeah. And it's not like you get healthier as you get older. I'm living proof.
But come on, Keenan Allen spread is a loss. You can talk about his age, whatever. He was putting up massive numbers.
I can argue that Carolina's receiver room for Bryce Young last year is better than what Herbert's walking into this season.
Exactly. I agree with
spread.
Right now.
They're not done yet.
But sure. You draft Neighbors. You're slightly better than Carolina's wide receiver room last year.
They would need to draft.
You have no running backs. You have no offensive line.
Johnston, who's probably one of the worst draft picks we've ever seen.
He was awful. Yeah.
Is there any chance that he becomes good?
No.
I'm trying to think. Have we ever seen this where a receiver's just terrible for 1 year and then he just ends up being good?
Yeah.
He couldn't catch in college. He caught all the balls with his step.
I mean, wasn't his stuff in college a lot of yak stuff or a lot of just making plays and either jump ball or yak, kind of fluky stuff. I know that's at least what Steve said. That's why he kind of was out on him last year. Any rookie receivers that their statistics were put up in more of a fluky manner, either, too much by the line of scrimmage, yak stuff, too much jump ball stuff, stuff that's too volatile.
If my receiver's always got to jump up and catch the ball like this and jam it to his chest and he can't go out and grab one like this,
right.
I don't want anything to do with him. That is Quentin Johnston.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know.
I don't want to defend Quentin Johnston, but I'll just say so we'll just talk about Harbaugh being better than the Raiders this year because that's what the original argument was, Tyler. Number one, these totals are about 37 now. So you don't need to put up a ton of points to win in the end.
You have to stop the other team from scoring it. And 38-year-old Khalil Mack and 36-year-old Joey Bosa are your best lines of defense. And you have no pass defense. You got to fix that too?
He makes everybody better.
He's
a developer. They're gonna dominate the draft just like Pete Carroll did because he's gonna come in and he's gonna know all the players better. He's probably gonna get 5 or 6 Big Ten guys in the late rounds, like when they turned Seattle around and they got Cam Chancellor in the 4th round. And
but how fast did Carroll take to turn things around there? I mean, it wasn't in the first year, was it?
Carroll legit put together one of the best.
I mean, you have a top 5 quarterback, and all you got to do is everyone else be average.
Spreads basically telling us that Pete Carroll draft class they put together that goes down as one of the best ever. Harbaugh's going to walk in the door and recreate that day one. No fucking chance.
How many do they even have all their picks?
No.
I was going to say that's important. How many picks do they have?
So they can trade back and grab.
They could trade back. Yeah, they could certainly trade back. Yeah. And I've seen in some mock
What if
drafts
they
that
traded
Whatever
for
their win
Minnesota
total is,
got
go
11
under.
and 23 and grabbed 2 wide receivers? Then what are you guys going to say to me?
we might eat our words a little if they can get too early because of this wide
Two
receiver
first-round wide
class.
receivers this year? Yeah, I don't, who's their new GM? I know that we got Telesco. Who'd he bring in?
I forget. I heard the name.
I know the one thing I'm worried about for them is Greg Roman with Herbert.
Joe Hortis is am I pronouncing it right? I'm not sure.
He must have just been a Telesco disciple or something.
Okay.
Or he's just Harbaugh's buddy. Are we worried about Greg Roman? I'm surprised you guys didn't bring that up because I would have used that to argue against me.
Yeah. Yes, I'm worried about that. Yes.
So you loved the Chargers last year, Meg. Am I going to have more Chargers exposure than you this year?
Yes. I mean, I went into this my first big board draft, I think I did a Chargers stack with Keenan Allen thinking, okay, Mike Williams is going to be the cap casualty. They're going to find a way to keep Keenan Allen. Well, they didn't. And now I just don't like how things are looking for.
Okay. But can I just say
looked at what they signed in free agency already?
Shows that other GMs agree with me.
Wait, what?
The fact that he went for a 4th round pick.
It's not just, but I mean, some of the times the capital that they get is also based on how much they're going to cost the team too.
Same thing in the NBA spread. You're trying to deal away a max contract and the dude's dog shit. You got to kind of attach some draft picks to him or give him up for nothing.
Yeah, but that's my point. I mean, it's not like people were knocking down the door to have Keenan Allen play for him. I think that people are seeing the aggression.
One of the best route runners in the league.
Yeah,
he was
still is.
Justin Herbert's number 1 for the past.
I mean, Jerry Rice could probably run routes better than the rest of the league. He's not fast anymore, though.
He was still getting open as of
he was
week
still getting open
last year.
Exactly, right up till the very end.
This is still a top 15 receiver in the league.
How do you think he's going to do with Caleb?
I like that, actually.
I think that's one of the best things that could have happened to Caleb.
Yeah, Bears are setting Caleb up for success. Robert Griffin is insane for saying that they are not setting him up.
Give him a time.
No, I know.
I just went and looked at what the Chargers have done in free agency already. This team is doomed.
I think so.
They re-signed Easton Stick. They signed Gus Edwards to a 2-year deal. That's their one good signing because they're probably going to try and pound the ball. But he's not even all that good of a running back outside of Baltimore where he's scoring all those 1-yard touchdowns.
Yeah.
They signed Will Dissly and Hayden Hurst, 2 washed tight ends.
Yeah.
They signed Bradley Bozeman to a 1-year contract. That's a center. Never heard of him. Poona Ford, D-line. Troy Dye, linebacker. Denzel Perryman, old linebacker. Alohi Gilman, safety. I haven't heard of any of those guys.
Yeah, I don't think it's.
You don't win in free agency, though. Winning free agency is never.
I know that. Believe me, we used to have off-season champions shirts, Washington.
I think they're going to do things right there, and I think that you guys are underestimating the amount of teaching that Harbaugh's going to do, and how he's going to take these average level of physical abilities and make them above average contributors.
I just looked; they do have a full complement of picks and like a couple extras in the mid rounds, and if they traded out of that,
my other thing too is about Harbaugh. Is when he coaches like he's coaching college kids. He's going to yell at you. He's going to tell you what to do if you do something wrong, and he's going to bitch at you. That worked for the 49ers that one year they made the Super Bowl, and then the guys got tired of it. We're in 2024 where you can't yell at somebody without them running and crying. What do we think the Chargers roster is going to do when he yells at them the first time?
Well, to go to something that Steve Jones says, and I know we're not supposed to be crossing sports here, but he talks about most players want to be coached. Most players want to get better. And if they believe you're going to get them better, that's where so I don't think the first
it's the believing in the culture. Yeah.
I think you're right though, Tyler. Like I wouldn't be saying 5 years from now the Chargers are going to be better than the Raiders. No. Right? Because you're right. This has a 3 to 4 year shelf life. He wears on everybody, not just the players.
Yeah, he's going to wear on ownership quick.
It wasn't really the players that wanted him gone, actually. It was the front office guys because they couldn't stand him running through the office, creating hell, yelling at everybody.
And now what happens if they're 1-5 going into week 6? All that speeds up at 100 miles an hour. There's players going to the owner saying, we're tired of this guy already. He's just treating us like college kids. We make hundreds of millions of dollars. I could see this blowing up a lot quicker than people think.
Guy in the world, so it doesn't matter. I think you're underestimating.
I don't think it'll. I think they'll give them. I think the. Oh, sorry, Spread. Go ahead.
No, you can go ahead. My point is something.
No, I was just. No, I think they'll give him time, but I'm skeptical this year. That's my thought on it. Like I think they got Jim Harbaugh. I think they're going to give it time.
I want their win total under, and they're finishing 4th in that division.
What's the win total set at?
So you think Bo Nix is going to do better than Justin Herbert?
I don't think Bo Nix is starting. I think Gardner Minshew is.
No, Bo Nix is going to Denver. Denver's going to be terrible.
I mean, I still think Denver's going to be better than the Chargers.
I do too. I actually do too.
They have a defense. I
think this Chargers is mess.
They have a defense and a coach that can actually scheme some offense for I don't care who's playing quarterback. The
Yeah.
Chargers got a loudmouth who had to ride the best team in college football to a championship. You couldn't win anything else outside of that.
Okay, let's just do this exercise, right? Let's do reductive NFL handicapping. The way that I would if I didn't do any studying all week and I just woke up on Sunday morning and I wanted to play some bets. And we're just going to rank coach quarterback combo, nothing else.
But we don't care about okay. Well, yeah.
Coach quarterback combo. Reed Mahomes number 1, right?
Right.
Where's Harbaugh?
We don't know the two
Herbert. It might be number 2.
But we don't know the two quarterbacks for Denver and Raiders yet.
But we already know there's no way that Pierce.
I feel like you're trying to put duct tape. I feel like you're trying to put duct tape on a car from the junkyard and tell me that this is like a Camaro. With this,
I think you guys are underestimating.
We're gonna filter out every other position and just give them the two positions where they have the loudest names at. And
I was going to say, spread you.
We're not going to look at the rest of their roster that is absolutely gutted. Like, don't look back there. Do not look back there.
Don't look under the hood. Spread, you always preach like offensive line, defensive line.
Who's only coach quarterback? Who's better combo?
I mean, it probably is them, but they have nothing else.
Nothing else. Yeah, that's what's so
concerning. That's where he's going to make things happen. And we've seen in the NFL, and this is why underdogs win even late in the year. The talent level between 1 and 32 in the NFL is so much closer than any other major sport. It's why it's the most popular sport. Because there are no Washington Wizards out there, right? I mean, even the crappiest teams can win, right? That's why 0-16 is so crazy.
Right.
Because every team, has guys. So enough of the Chargers, but I feel like I made my points pretty well. I think most of the viewers are going to say spreads right here.
You have to go. What did you say? 3-14?
3-14.
I was going to give it
with Justin Herbert.
What's he done in the NFL except for get free passes on everything that he fucks up?
I was going to say I've been a big Justin Herbert fan, and I think he's so talented. But
all right, let's rank quarterbacks. Where is he?
Just quarterback. Just as far as what he does to elevate his team.
You get your choice right now, Meg, on the Commanders. Who would you rather have, Herbert or Lamar Jackson?
Oh, geez, that's close.
I think I'm taking Herbert. The only thing people are putting ahead of him, I think, are Mahomes, Burrow. Josh Allen, Mr. Potato Head,
Allen and Burrow,
and Joe Burrow.
Yeah. They're like 4 or 5. Yeah, you're right.
Okay. I mean, if he continues to improve, but
Herbert, Trevor Lawrence, and there's one more guy. They are all lumped together as guys that are told that they're going to be gods, and they haven't done a single thing yet.
Herbert hasn't done much results-wise.
Just those two alone are in like little bubbles where everyone's like, they're elite. But then when you look around, it's like, oh, they haven't put up elite stats yet.
But you feel like they should have done more.
About how important head coach is, and Herbert had the worst head coach. Like, nobody's winning with Brandon Staley. Like, even Patrick Mahomes was suck under Brandon Staley.
I don't know about that. I feel like Patrick.
Yeah, and the Lawrence thing is confusing to me because he had the terrible head coach year 1. Really the bounce back year 2, and then kind of the regression year 3. So it's like, what's this year?
Shit last year.
You think? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
I also think Calvin Ridley wasn't as good as we thought he was going to be.
Yeah, think about the end of last year, Meg. We watched him go down with like an ankle injury. We didn't think he was playing that week. He played that week.
He was a warrior.
He messed up his shoulder in that game. So we're like, he's going to sit the next week. He plays again.
He's a warrior. I'll give him credit for that.
It's like he's legit just wheeling himself out there on a wheelchair at this point going, all right, we're going to try again.
Well, I don't think Calvin Ridley was as good as we thought. Yes, let's talk about that, though. Ridley to Tennessee and then Gabe Davis to Jacksonville. I think that's a downgrade for the Jacksonville Jaguars receiving core. Now, you have
back on one thing before we dig into this and we're like, oh, he's a better player than him. let's not forget Gabe Davis is the best blocking wide receiver in
That's
the
true.
NFL, and he was key to Buffalo's offense last year.
That's true. People do underestimate that. But as a receiving core, I think that's a downgrade for Trevor Lawrence. Maybe, I mean, because now
There's
it's
so many picks. I mean, they're gonna get a guy, don't you think? I mean, there's
They're
gonna be
gonna
great
draft-
wide
they're gonna
receivers
draft a guy.
available in the second round, aren't there?
I mean, again, this receiver class is so deep that, yeah, I mean, I don't even have to do it in the first couple of rounds to make have an impact guy. So that's a good point. But yeah, I just think that's a downgrade.
Mock draft now, they have them taking Xavier Worthy in the second round. That kid that ran like the 4.140.
I thought he was going to be like a surefire round one. A mock has him in round 2.
I feel like these wide receivers from where is he? From Adonai Mitchell at 32 down to probably Roman Wilson at 50. I feel like that order can go however you order it. However, the teams like those guys.
Oh yeah, it's going to be team
Like
preference.
Lad McConkey could be the third receiver on guys' boards,
right?
The 12th receiver on another guy's board.
He could end up being like Amon-Ra St. Brown, Cooper Kupp, and he's on most people's rankings as like the 8th.
One guy who breaks down wide receiver film, and I would believe what this man says because he was dead right about Cooper Kupp when everyone else was wrong. Steve Smith knows what he's talking about when it comes to receivers.
Yeah.
And he made a comment about one of these wide receivers. It's not Keon Coleman. It is the other one coming out of Florida State. Called him a bust. Said he can't even multitask, tie his shoes, and talk at the same time. Like, basically, this guy runs a 4.6. He's 6'7". He's labeled as a freak, but good luck doing that at the next level.
Wait, who is it?
It's this other wide receiver coming out of Florida State, not Keon Coleman.
Oh, okay.
I think his last name's Wilson.
Johnny Wilson. Okay.
Johnny Wilson, that's it.
I just Googled it to see the Florida State. Okay.
Yeah, the way he finished up the breakdown was like he's labeled as a freak.
Well,
maybe at night, but not on the football field.
Who did he love? Who was he?
That was the only one for this season I seen him break down. But
okay.
In previous years, he was talking about Cooper Kupp, and everyone, as he talked about him, the guys just kind of brushed him off, like you don't know what you're talking about. And he's like, Cooper Kupp, best route runner, best catcher. He just doesn't have the breakout speed. He was dead right about him the whole time.
Yeah. Matt Harmon, if you follow him on Twitter, he has a website called Reception Perception that I don't have a subscription yet, but it's really elite breakdowns, and he does these charting and everything for receivers. So he's a good one to follow for receiver stuff too, especially I'll be interested to see all his takes on these rookies as well. Okay. Any other thoughts? Let's go back to running back really quick, because I need your take on, we talked about Saquon upgrading Philly, obviously. Jacobs upgrading the Packers, obviously. I think Derrick Henry, I know you don't want to hear this, Tyler, but I still think that backfield of him and Lamar, and when Keaton Mitchell comes back, is a very dangerous backfield, even at his age. What do you think about the King Henry to Ravens?
Oh, yeah, definitely a problem. But it all comes down to if they're going to go just stupid mode again like they did in the playoffs, and they're going to go, we're going to throw the ball instead of run it, and they just kind of play him right off the field by accident. The other thing is like, I know he topped the 7th highest speed in the league last year. He's done this for years. Maybe he goes out there and gets injured this year. Maybe the lowered workload that instead of what he was getting in Tennessee, not getting hit as many times, becomes a little bit, my body's starting to soften up, starts to get hit again. Now he's dealing with injuries a little more. So I think there's different ways you could look at it, but in the end, he's going to improve the offense as long as he's on the field. What
do you think, Spread? What are your thoughts on Henry?
I think Derrick Henry's a freak like Adrian Peterson, and I don't think normal running back rules apply to him. I think it's a great pickup. I agree with everything. I'll keep it quick. I agree with everything Tyler said. Let's just hope his own team doesn't beat him here in the playoffs. I mean, barring injury to Lamar Jackson and over half of their defense, I mean, we can already pencil them in the playoffs.
Right.
And they lost a lot of defensive pieces. I will say that.
But once again, and this is where, I sound like a broken record, but coaches that can teach can absorb those losses. And I believe that John Harbaugh.
They also draft very well. They so
draft
good.
Very well, so they'll probably replace. But
they are losing a coordinator, though, who's supposedly one of the sharpest guys in the NFL.
That's a big loss. Who they didn't they promote from within for their defensive coordinator?
I believe so, yeah.
And they're not going to switch the scheme, and why would they when it was so successful?
That's why I thought
they went from Wink Martindale, who was like labeled as their defensive coordinator. That's the reason their defense was good for the past 12 years. They switched.
Yeah, I thought they were going to fall off, and they got better.
They switched to this guy. They got a little bit better. Now they're going to switch to another guy. We did the same thing last year where we're like, oh, Philly got rid of their coordinators. They should be all right. The players are still there.
Yeah.
Like this.
But it's just like the 49ers, right? I mean, they pulled it off a couple times, right? They replaced Saleh with D'Amico. Then, when they replaced D'Amico with Steve Wilks, eventually they run out. But my final thought on the Ravens is because it's going to be almost an NBA feel for them.
Mm-hmm.
Where the regular season is not going to really matter for them. I'm wondering if I'm actually devaluing them a little bit in best ball and fantasy formats because I think they're going to be favored a lot, and I don't think they're going to cover a lot for whatever reason. I think they're going to go off gangbusters, and then by week 8 or 9, it's just okay. What do we do in the playoffs, right? I mean, that's what the season comes down to, right? And I wonder if they get a little more vanilla. And they're not extending leads and putting up the statistics like maybe a team with something to prove, like I don't know about Detroit, but definitely Green Bay, right? I mean, a lot of these teams are going to improve.
I'm on like the completely opposite side of you on that take. I think that they're a covering machine next year. They're a bully.
Really?
They're a bully. They've been labeled as a bully for years. Now they have the biggest, baddest running back in the league. They're going to grab a lead and they're going to hand him the ball. He's not just going to go 2 yards, 2 yards, 2 yards and fall over. Some of these drives are just going to be him going all the way down the field, and they put another 7 on the board. And the defense is going to be tired, and all of a sudden Baltimore has the ball back. They're handing it off again. Here's another 7. I could see them being how everyone labeled them this year, where it was like, oh, my God, they're the big bad team. They're going to walk through the playoffs. I think they could be labeled even bigger and badder walking into the playoffs next year.
Yeah.
And someone like the Chiefs just walks over and goes, get out of here.
Yeah, I think as far as best ball, Lamar showed MVP season. He still has that spike week potential, had it in the, to play best ball playoffs last year. But definitely the floor isn't as safe. So I'd say if you're drafting Lamar, especially when if they get a lead and can milk it away with Henry, the thing I'd say is I do like Henry, but I'd say if you have Lamar to get like a high floor quarterbacks with him because he didn't have like a safe floor last year. To me, I mean, the ceiling is absolutely still there, but they don't, it's not like Jalen Hurts has been or Josh Allen where he's like taking all those goal line carries. And certainly now with Henry, you don't see that happening. So makes me a little, I guess, maybe put Lamar down a little bit more in best ball rankings. Not that I wouldn't draft him, but if I did, I'd want some other good quarterbacks with him because, I don't know. I just think they could lean into that running game a lot this year with Henry. Any other running back implications that you like for best ball guys? We talked about Henry. We talked about Saquon. We talked about Josh Jacobs. Any other like Swift, Pollard, Aaron Jones?
Talk about your team.
I like the little lightning and thunder.
So he's been a top 10 guy for 3 or 4 years. I think he's
Yeah.
Yeah, I know he was the number 1 overall player 1 year, and I think he's been top 5 2 of the 3 last year.
Yeah.
Last season wasn't so good. That's another.
He had multiple injuries too.
Where do you have him, and like what round would you target him at? Where it's like I can't pass on him here.
I'm gonna pull up
third round player.
No, I don't think he's that high. I think I want to say he's going in like the 60s. I'm going to pull up the underdog rankings, but
he's take in the dead zone, which I said I didn't believe in last year, and then it ended up being true again.
Right.
All those dead zone guys dudded out for me. Damian Pierce, Miles Sanders. There was the Eagles running back DeAndre Swift right in there that were our dead zone guys.
Yeah, I know he didn't do the worst, but I tried to put you on the right Pittsburgh running back.
Wait, you don't like Najee?
Najee, right?
I was trying to put him on Najee. He was drafting Warren.
I know. People were so obsessed.
I know he didn't do bad, but like Najee was the workhorse.
Najee's the workhorse. Yeah.
And now you get Smith offense this year. Yeah. Go right back to him because he's getting the ball again a lot.
Yeah. I'm pulling up the underdog rankings right now. Give me a minute. And I want to look at where guys like Najee.
While you do that, Tyler, what do you think of Eckler in Washington?
I mean, I sent that meme video to you guys of the 18-wheeler trying to run over the construction
Oh,
worker.
he was hurt last year.
I think he's done.
He's older, but
I legit like I don't want to just poop on Meg's team here, but like that video of Jerry Rice, Dan Marino, and Randy Moss and all them dressed up where they're like, "Let's go, fellas," and it's like they're all old in their uniforms. That legit reminds me of every signing Washington made this offseason.
I think it was such a smart.
They signed Marcus Mariota. Who's some other ones they signed? They signed some other old guy. I can't think of it. I gotta pull.
Well, Zach Ertz.
Zach Ertz is the other one. It's like they're signing all like their offseason would have been an A+ in like 2012.
I think it's
the only way I can defend your team here, Meg, is they do need a culture reset and just maybe some guys in there with a good work ethic. Like regardless of Ekeler's producing on the field, if he's in the weight room every morning,
that could be a good thing. Yeah. So
there was a tweet about it today. I mean, obviously I follow all the Washington beat writers and I like some more than others, but I forget who tweeted it, but they said, Ron Rivera was big on character, but the problem is he didn't draft leader or he didn't get enough leaders in here to reset the culture. And in one offseason, Dan Quinn and Adam Peters have drafted leaders like Ertz, Ekeler, some of the guys on sorry, I'm blanking on the name for the linebacker.
Bobby Wagner.
Thank you, Bobby Wagner. Yeah. So they're signing absolute leaders, and they're low risk signings. Like this is just like the Russell Wilson Fields
they're
thing.
Signing them, like you said, Meg, just to be leaders and reset the culture, I'm all here for it. If they sign those guys and they're like, we need you to produce on the field this year, they don't
need to. That's the thing. They're using these guys as like pieces. Like they're not using them as like Ekeler is a perfect example. He's not going to be a workhorse bell cow. He's going to be like the spot relief, the pass catching back, that kind of stuff. And like maybe at his age and, hopefully bouncing back from injury, maybe he excels more in that role than he did in in a workhorse role. Cause obviously that did not work last year. And so, I think it's stuff like that. Like these guys, I know the way Dan Quinn operates his defense, he uses these guys as like chess pieces and stuff. So they want like a lot of versatility on both offense and defense. And I don't think many of these signings are used as like every down players necessary. I mean, some of them, like I believe like the safety and the linebacker they got from Carolina, they're younger, those kind of guys, but they did all 1 to 3 year signings, loved it. They didn't blow the bank on it. They said, we're going to use free agency to patch and build in the draft. And that's what they're going to do. And so I like that they laid that out and that they're seeing that through. And I have no problem because, at names like it does sound like, oh, these guys are washed up. Well, they didn't pay them a lot. There's no risk to it. It's just like the Russell Wilson, but for like 6 or 7 different positions. But again, all these positions are doing that. Zach Ertz, I don't think he's going to play every down, but do I think he could play a role on this team? Definitely. He's under Cliff Kingsbury. He's played under Cliff. And so that was another thing. Tons of familiarity with coaches. I mean, people were killing the Mariota. Oh, that means they're going to draft Jaden Daniels. No, it doesn't. It means he has familiarity with Brian Johnson because he played under him in Philly and he's on the offensive staff. It's just every guy almost ties to an offensive or defensive coordinator or obviously Dan Quinn. So I'm fine with it. I love it. I get the jokes are funny, but I am totally, totally fine with it. And I think actually guys like Ekeler could be interesting later on. And you mentioned Najee Harris. Najee Harris is ADP 83. Sign me up for that. Yes, Ekeler ADP of 88. These are the guys like a who's the Lions back David Montgomery that you would get in like the 90s. And it's like your game in the 90s and this guy absolutely is like a touchdown monster. I mean, what has Ekeler been known for? The touchdowns and air guitar, is he gonna continue that in this role? Not probably at the same level, but in the 90s, I don't care. You don't have to be at a 3rd round level. So I don't know. What do you think, Ekeler? Or what do you think Ekeler? What do you think spread? Anything to wrap up the Washington stuff or anything to wrap up these later running backs like Najee Harris?
Where is Montgomery going is my question.
Around the same, I think, which shocks me isn't going higher. Yeah, 72. He's going like 20 picks higher.
I thought he would be going lower. Doesn't it seem like they're going to turn it over to Gibbs this year?
I think there's still going to be like
Gibbs really developed as the season.
He did. He
Where's
absolutely.
Gibbs going?
Oh, 1st round.
I would say Gibbs is up there with Breece Hall.
Rankings wise, he is. Well,
Yeah.
Brees Hall's rankings is ADP is 6, Gibbs' ADP is 11. So
Right. But that's kind of like Devontae and Garrett Wilson were around the same last year, right? And then,
right. But what scares me about that with Gibbs is I still think they will use David Montgomery. So
I think they will too, but I mean,
I agree with you that he developed and but I don't think they're going to turn over full like workhorse keys to the. I
but
think there's
who's an actual workhorse though? I mean, Saquon's not even a workhorse, is he? I mean, he's going to be. I'd say he's as high usage as anyone else.
Who, Gibbs? Are you talking about Gibbs?
Gibbs, yeah. Like maybe take a little bit more.
They mixed it in even in that playoff game. They were mixing in David Montgomery tons.
But did it feel like a mistake?
No, David Montgomery ran well against San Francisco.
Okay, I just thought Gibbs had so much juice.
It's because he's so explosive, and it's like when and I think
he's not calling up with Jalen Warren.
Exactly, and that's the thing. Every year, fantasy analysts will get obsessed with these like explosive guys. And it's like, we always need to ask ourselves, can they handle that bell cow role? We saw it with Pollard. He could not, people dogged on Zeke for 2 years wanting to see more Pollard. We saw it and, it wasn't as good as we thought. I mean, he wasn't worth a second round pick last year. So, I think it's interesting. I think the whole Gibbs Montgomery thing, I don't know. I think they're going to still use Montgomery plenty. So Gibbs in the first round was impressive as he is. I would rather get the obviously Christian McCaffrey or Bijan in that offense or Brees Hall. And they're going ahead of him, but that's my take. Any other running back free agents that you really, really like?
I'm trying to think. There were so many.
We have Henry to Baltimore, Saquon. I wrote them down. Saquon to Philly, Swift to Chicago, Pollard to Tennessee, Jacobs to Packers, Aaron Jones to Vikings, Eckler to Washington. That's just like the bigger names.
Didn't Houston get a good one?
Joe Mixon, but I mean,
Mixon went to Houston. That's right. Mixon went to Houston, and Singletary went to Giants. Yeah,
but I think that on DraftKings, the PPR Mixon could still be really good.
Yeah,
don't you see him in the third down roll there?
Yeah.
I feel like they're bringing in another running back. I mean,
I wouldn't be surprised if they drafted.
They have the slowest running back room in the league. Like Joe Mixon's not breaking a run for more than 15 yards. Damian Pierce, I don't even think can run 15 yards before he gasses.
Bro, that was my worst pick all year.
Mine too.
Like the moment they sub Singletary and that offense just exploded even more than it already was. Like I know Mixon scores touchdowns, but like you need a change of pace back in there.
Yeah. No, and Mixon is like that touchdown guy too. You're right. So that's going to be a tough one in best ball season. There's not okay. Let's go to move to wide receivers.
A frustrating one too, Meg, because he's going to be one of them ones where they get down in the 5 and you're going to be like, I'm getting a touchdown, and Stroud play actions and zips a ball into somebody. And it's like, well, there's one to Nico Collins that was supposed to be mine.
They resigned him. They're all going to go to Kincaid. Is that the guy's name? Not Kincaid. Schultz. I knew
Schultz.
It was
they resigned Schultz. I was going to say there wasn't much on the tight end.
It was one Roadhouse star.
Yeah. Schultz back to Tennessee or back to Houston. Love him. I just love that offense for sure. Wide receivers, we talked a couple casually, but I mean, Tyler, you're high, always been, obviously bullish on the Kansas City offense, rightfully so. Now they finally have a wide receiver. How are you going to handle Marquise Brown this year, and what do you think that does for Kansas City?
I mean, it just makes them better. I mean, it was like you see
the notification
come across your phone. I said it to Spreader. I said it to another buddy. I was like, there's gonna be one of these signings the Chiefs make, just no one's seen coming. It's gonna be like, oh, they got a wide receiver, and that's gonna become a problem. Yeah. That night, you got the notification. It said Marquise Brown signs with the Chiefs, and you let it sink in your head for a second. It's like, oh shit. Even though he can't really catch the ball, he's gonna get open. He kind of fits the criteria for their wide receivers. He's 1,000-yard receiver he's produced in the past. If he gets back to what he was, watch out. Yeah,
I was trying to see where he's going right now.
He turns into Marquise Toney.
He's nowhere. He is 10 times the player Kadarius Toney is.
Okay.
His ADP right now is 71. Obviously.
What's Kelsey's ADP? Travis.
He's fallen obviously from last year. He's 43.
Is Laporta T1?
Yeah, and I'm gonna, all of our good jokes about my obsession with Laporta. I think I'm turning on him. He's just priced too high. Like, because here's the
That's
thing,
how
like,
all this is.
yeah, it's always
It's like,
price.
the old gambler's adage: we don't bet teams, we bet numbers. Well, it's like, yeah, of course I love the Nuggets. I'm not laying -20 if they play the Boston Celtics.
Right,
I
exactly.
think they're the better team, but I mean, right? I mean, so this is also price sensitive. And it's funny. I've been on Brees Hall the 2 years, and I got to be with him his rookie year when people, we were getting him later.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt really smart about that. But I think we're going to be opposite there. I think I'm kind of out on him because where he's going, I think I'd rather have a wide receiver. I think I'd rather have Jefferson, Tyreek.
They're all going to be gone. They're all going ahead. So it's like if you're in that middle of the first round, I think
that's fair. If those receivers are gone, right? But I'm still
it's basically McCaffrey and 5 receivers
and Garrett Wilson. I don't know. We'll see how that goes.
I don't know. I mean, Brees showed what he did at the end of the season with a crap quarterback and a crap offense.
Mahomes is adding a wide receiver that averages 12 yards a catch. Average per catch for his whole
That's
career.
crazy. And if they get like an Adonai
Mitchell, the only team that he actually helps.
Yeah, I'm about to say that was the thing. Is like
it doesn't matter.
Does not matter.
If you tell me he went to Houston or Jacksonville or Carolina or New England, who cares?
Houston's like it could be like interesting. Like it's like, oh, you become the third guy. You're probably in the slot. You're probably taking the top off. Like, but here it's like, oh. You're just going to go find open space and run away from everybody. When
it could be like a top wide receiver every week.
Yeah.
And now, it just adds to their, because we all talk about their offense last year. It was like they either run the ball with Pacheco, they throw it to Kelsey, or they throw it to Rice. Well, now we add another receiver, and they're probably adding something in the draft. So 3-peat incoming.
I mean, it's hard to 3-peat.
Get the repeat parlay going.
Who's the last team to do it?
I don't think it's ever been done.
It's never been done. That's why. No.
But just think about how this is lined up. Like they've got to keep the majority of their main key guys. This is probably going to be their best roster they had in the run. Like the NFC is dead. If they get out of the AFC, they won.
Yeah, it's just getting out of the AFC.
It's just getting out of the AFC. Yeah, I just think it's just getting out of the AFC. Like and I mean, Kelsey has shown, I mean, he elevated for the postseason, but he is definitely taking a step back each year.
I feel like he would have retired this year too with his brother.
Oh, yeah.
If there wasn't the factor of the 3-peat in effect.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think now that there's that, I think they go for that. If they get it, he's done.
Yeah.
He has nothing else to play for.
I mean, I think he should be done after this year. I think I don't know. I mean, how old is he now? 30? What Travis Kelce age? What is he, 31? No. Why can I not find his age? 34.
I typed in Marquise Brown stats on Google, and this is how you know, like, not a lot of people paid attention to football, but they know who the Chiefs are. First Google question where it says people also ask, it says, who is Marquise Brown?
That's funny. I have to say that a couple guys that we may not be obsessed with them, but I do think they elevate their quarterback and potentially their team. I think Ridley to Tennessee really helps out Will Levis. I'm going to be taking Will Levis later in drafts, and I think Deontay Johnson to Carolina. We kind of touched on this earlier.
Starter all year, Meg. We sent a guy down. We don't count on him being the starter all year. We sent a guy down there that could easily take his job.
Who?
Mason Rudolph.
Oh, that's true. I was actually pleasantly surprised what I saw with Will Levis last year, but
they kind of resemble the same player to me. Like Will Levis is like, he's going to try and chuck it deep. Like same thing with Rudolph.
Yeah, they do. They do seem like the same player. But they're obviously surrounding him with talent to try to give him a chance with Ridley. I mean, we'll see what they do on Hopkins, Pollard, so it's interesting. I mean, it's definitely interesting.
One thing to talk about too, because this isn't exactly free agency, but this is going to happen in the offseason too. Ayuk seems like he's fully out on the Niners. Like there's talks that Pittsburgh might trade for him soon.
Really?
There's talks that other teams might trade for him. Debo supposedly.
I thought Debo was the one that was.
What happens if both of those guys aren't in Niners uniforms next year?
I think one of them has.
The NFC just goes into shambles at that point.
Okay, I mean, Brandon Ayuk. Now I'm seeing the Steelers
until they ponied up last year.
What did you say about Debo?
Remember, he was supposed to be out last year. He was pissed, and they end up giving him the money.
These guys always like if Ayuk leaves though, and he's like, I want more money. Like they might just be like, we're done with you too.
They can't leave.
I
They do
don't
still have
think-
a window. They can't walk away from both.
49er spot, you overpay right now, and you just whatever.
They have to.
Whatever happens.
How many more years do you hold a final pick in the draft on contract though? Because it's not the normal rookie.
You only have
contract.
one more year, I believe.
Yeah, he doesn't have the normal like I can extend
You
him.
can't do the 5th year.
Yeah.
Second round picks and on. Yeah.
So
Right.
you can't really just pay up on these guys anymore. It's like the window's closing. Brock's
Yeah.
gonna need some money
But Brock might not get the full.
now.
He might come in at 30.
Just
instead of
judging by
55.
like looking around the league, he's getting the full.
He's getting the full. Come on, Daniel Jones is getting whatever, 35
Kirk
million.
Cousins just got 3 years, $100 million off an Achilles tear spread. Brock Purdy was almost the MVP last year. He's getting the full contract.
Oh,
I don't think
definitely.
people believe in him like they do the other quarterbacks, though.
I don't think they do either, but his stats show it, and he's the quarterback of the second best team in the league.
Yeah,
He's
exactly.
getting paid. Nobody
Yeah.
believed in Jared Goff when he got his bag of money the first time from the Rams.
And most people thought that was a bad contract. That's why the Rams had to
And
attract.
That's what they're going to say about Brock Purdy when he gets paid next year.
Yeah, it might be actually because I mean, for example, if we put him on the Raiders, are they that? I mean, I think he's better than Minshew, but is he that much better? Like, let's say I got
Yes,
Brock Purdy
I
tomorrow.
think people
I'm
have
going out
downgrade.
buying my little Super Bowl tickets, right? I mean, I'm not going
Come
out.
on.
to buy-
Okay, so what would your narrative be if Greenlaw didn't tear his Achilles and the kick didn't get blocked and all the crazy shit that happened for San Francisco to lose that game? What would happen if Brock Purdy is a Super Bowl champion right now? Or is your narrative different, Spread?
You're right.
Yeah, that's what's so crazy is the sliding doors things to me. Like if he has a ring
In
on
a
his
fun
finger,
fact, every time that man left the field in that Super Bowl, he had the lead. The one time Mahomes was able to grab the lead, the game ended.
Yeah.
that was crazy.
So it wasn't Brock Purdy's
I
fault. they
can see
lost
that.
that
And
game.
I've been on the other side, and I heard someone, I can't remember who it was, talking on a podcast. Why do we celebrate Brady for being a 6th round pick, but we crap on Purdy for being a 7th
Yeah,
round?
I don't either.
It's
I don't
the same
understand
exact
either.
story.
It's the same exact story. Yeah.
But now we don't like it anymore. But we
And
love
quite
it.
honestly, I think Purdy's done more, like certainly statistically, than
I
Brady
think
was asked to
I
do
think
in his
it's the
first
whole-
few years.
It's the whole.
To be fair, the
the
NFL was different in 2000.
That's true. That's true. We're talking 20 years
Like
later.
all these numbers are inflated. They're all like plus.
That's
25.
true. That's
that
absolutely true.
and I mean Brady was like if Brock won last year, won the Super Bowl, and then he won it again this year. Like, all right, now you're the Mr. Irrelevant who's gonna rack up rings. Like now you start to become the new Brady. Like until you win, yeah, it's cool. You're a 7th last pick in the draft, but you play good, you don't win anything. You can't
But
have.
he
the Brady.
almost did. That's what I'm saying. He literally, in my opinion, should have had a ring on his
almost
finger.
only
Yeah, I
counts
mean,
in
you-
horseshoes, Meg.
I understand. I
And
understand.
let's not say the 49ers even lost that game. The Chiefs won that game. I don't even want to. I feel so
Mahomes
bad
won
for
that game.
Shanahan.
You feel so bad for who? Oh, Shanahan.
Did you see him even like the week of? He looked like a zombie. I can't imagine what that flight home must have been like.
Oh, like afterwards?
I know he's just crushed.
Oh, well, of course so. I mean, I think that was a
I
brutal.
felt he had more pressure on him than
Did
any
that
other
one,
player.
Yeah.
did that one hurt worse than the 28-3 loss for him?
Yes.
Maybe. Yeah,
I think
I
so.
think
I
so.
think
I
so.
did.
Because you felt like you had that game in the bag the
you
entire
did.
time.
Yeah, you're
Yeah.
like you can finally and
know the overtime rules and you lost.
we talked about it like post Super Bowl, like just like again the sliding doors stuff. Like, come on, we would if things just a couple things broke differently. We're sitting here talking about like the first like father son, and then the McCaffrey Shanahan stuff, and Brock, as the Mr. Irrelevant with the ring on his finger, and they build a team around a guy, and they got lucky on a late round guy. Like it's just a different narrative. It's just like the narrative swings so wildly on like the smallest thing. It was the same thing the week before with 2 weeks before with Dan Campbell. It's like, him getting there with his aggressive play style, and then people are killing him. It's just so reactionary, which I understand. We have a small sample with NFL. We're only talking 17 regular season games and 3 weeks of postseason.
What makes it great is what makes it also
frustrating.
The time a little bit
Yeah.
right?
Yeah,
What makes
exactly.
it great is one thing, right? It's not like a basketball game. Oh, like we lost game 1, we'll get them next time.
Yeah,
you know?
yeah, exactly.
I mean, it's
That's
like,
what frustrates the hell out of me with like NFL reactionary stuff. Is it's so like,
No.
Yeah. I mean, that
We
just,
do that every week too with a missed field goal or a
Mhm.
two-point conversion.
Yep.
Right. And I know that for us personally, Tyler, it felt like we were on the right side of more 2-point conversions last year for our betting, and how much just those 2-point conversions, how many of our plays came down to 2-point conversions,
Mm.
A lot of them.
whether or not we covered the 3, right? Because it's 22-20 and they go for 2 or something, right? I mean,
Well, that's actually a good question to wind down this episode and then talk about like what we're going to be doing this off season on the channel. Like, are there any things like that you're thinking of from last year that you like want to stay the course, and anything you want to do differently? I'll go to you for as far as the NFL handicapping and like things like that, like the conversions or things that you're going to wait more or less. I'll go to you first, Spread.
I think the only thing I'm going to do differently is believe in the lower scoring league. I know it felt like 3 years ago we had a 55-52 game,
Mhm.
and this is the future of the NFL, and it's going to look like Big 12 football. And no, it's not. It's simply not. And I'm going to save most of this for next episode, Meg. But I mean, if we didn't already go an hour 20, I had a lot prepared for this. But you have 2 options when you're building a team. You can have a rookie quarterback and a great roster, or you can have a great
Mhm.
quarterback and a mediocre roster. And that's the
Yep.
way that it turned out here. And so
Mhm.
because of that fact, I don't think the scoring is as high because these rookies are getting thrown in too soon. And I think you agree with me here.
I do.
And guys like, Kenny Pickett probably wouldn't even ever made a start yet
Mhm.
when I grew up. So,
And what would a guy like Kenny Pickett do after 3 years of sitting? I don't know. Maybe he'd still be a small hands.
Maybe 31 years old.
He wasn't. Well, that's another thing is these guys weren't that old.
You understand my point is a lot of
Yeah.
these guys get thrown in there when they didn't necessarily earn the job.
Let's be
Yeah.
real. So if he was in a real quarterback class, not one with him, Howe, Malik Willis,
It was
Yeah,
rough.
that
That was a
Will
brutal quarterback.
Levis, like the best 2 like if you go look at the way those quarterbacks were drafted, you could almost if you pulled Malik Willis's name out of the list because he was the 3rd one off, and you flipped the list upside down, they drafted it backwards.
Yeah.
Brock
Mhm.
Purdy should have been the 1st one off the board. Sam Howell should have been 2nd, and Kenny Pickett should have been the last. So he was the 1st one off the board. He was only picked because he was there. The Steelers picked at like 20. Nobody took a quarterback in front of him. They went, well, our hometown guy's there, so we'll take him.
Yeah.
They fired that
He didn't pick him. He
Fired
probably
that
didn't
GM the following year. Omar Khan rolls in. He goes, "You suck. You're gone, and we're getting 2 new guys."
Not 1, but 2. Yeah, no, Spread, you sent me that tweet, and we'll talk about this more maybe next time, expand on this more. But yeah, it was a tweet about the last 2 years of quarterback classes have been just absolutely brutal. There's 2 starters left. One was the very first pick in the draft, Trevor Lawrence, a couple years ago. One was the very last pick of the draft.
And I don't think it's the last 2 years, it's the last 4 years, Meg, on that thing.
Okay, so that was it wasn't because it wasn't the 2020 class. It was 21, 22, and 20. Well, it wasn't 23. Wasn't counting. It was talking about the
Outside
21,
of Houston,
22.
who actually like built their team properly to bring the quarterback in and be like, "We're going to give you a safe landing place with like things around you."
Well, that's what always makes me nervous. And so people were I read a lot of quote retweets, reactions to it, or saw a lot. And a lot of it's like, why do these quarterbacks fail? And a lot of it is that they're going to crappy teams that don't have a safe landing spot. Then they're number 2, to Spread's point, and this point that I believe in and I bring up a lot, they're forced to start right away in these crappy situations. And just like a lot of people talked about, just the development of quarterbacks just kind of isn't setting these guys up for success. So yeah, it's a lot to expand on. I think, like you said, it goes back to why we are seeing a lot of low totals because of the quarterback play. And is this quarterback play going to raise? And, are the other supplemental things, maybe, receiving classes and other things getting better? I think it's a strong tackle, offensive line class is getting better too. But yeah, there's a lot of factors to think in for this. But yeah, we definitely can expand on this. So let's ask that. That's a good way to end the show. Spread in the off season. Obviously, you guys are going to be doing some best ball drafts and continue to do NBA best ball playoff drafts. But then you'll be doing some NFL best ball for us. What do you want to talk about this offseason from a just like futures and kind of strategizing perspective?
I mean, I think we're still waiting and seeing. The draft means so much, and I think we'll really be able to evaluate the teams. And the one mistake that we're not going to make, Meg, we're both going to deactivate our Twitter accounts the day that spring training, or not spring training, training camp opens, right? Because we're not drafting Darren Waller because he made a bunch of catches in shorts. We're not drafting Ridley because he looks so right. I mean,
so fast. Yeah.
There's nothing we learned in those training camps that helped us. So we are going to ignore every training camp report.
Yeah, that
true. That is my New Year's resolution.
Yeah, I will agree with that. Tyler, I'll go to you now. What to round out this show, besides obviously talking about, obviously post-draft stuff and schedule stuff and NFL futures, and then of course ripping a bunch of basketball drafts. Anything else that you think are good, like kind of conversation pieces or things you want to like kind of strategize about for this next season?
No, I mean, I think just like Spread said, you got to wait for the draft. You don't want to get too far out of yourself. Like the only team I'd be placing futures on right now is the Chiefs. So outside of that, I do want to touch on what he just talked about though with the OTA films and the training camp films. I was once told from a wise man, don't take all the good news don't take the very good news as it's real, but the very bad news is true. So when a team is talking bad about a player in OTAs and training camp, that's red flags everywhere. When the guy's running on water and he's faster than everybody and he looks like prime Usain Bolt running a 100 meter, don't believe that. Like that's you got to filter that information a little bit, but you can find some gems in there too, to where it's like one guy looks like shit now who was good last year. We're gonna move that guy down our boards while everyone leaves him up, and he's gonna dud on everyone else. So there. Just got to sift through that news a little bit. I know it sucks, but sometimes you got to.
Yeah. And you have to put context to everything too, because like, who are they running routes against? What do they do?
Saying it too. Like, is the coach
and who's,
saying it?
Oh my God.
Is some parody Twitter account saying it?
Oh, there's some bad Twitter accounts tweeting stuff.
ESPN saying it.
Yeah. You have to wait like the source, number one. I was in some Discords last basketball season that were pumping up Trey Lance and just taking like basically like Trey Lance fan accounts. And it's like, no, he's not going to start. But yes, of course, he had some good practices that you can highlight, he's not going to start this year. I mean, the guy is still a clipboard holder in Dallas. Like you just have to, you just have to put context to everything and make sure you listen to the right sources. So, but we're going to have a ton of good off-season conversations, a lot more best ball drafts, NBA playoffs for them, then NFL for all of us. Tons of best ball content. We'll be doing probably some pre-draft stuff, of course, some post-draft stuff, schedule stuff, future stuff, lots of good things coming. So this has been fun. Thank you for joining us. For Spread, for Tyler, I'm Meg, and we will see you next time.